Hi, everyone. I'd love to get started by asking you a question. So with that background noise, with a show of hands, I'd love to see how many of you have thought about when you're buying products, for example, the next blouse or the next dress you're going to wear, what your carbon footprint is. Can people raise their hands if they thought about that? Okay, so not too many, I have to say, especially at a climate conference. But how many of you would like to think about that going forward? Hopefully a few more. That's good to see. Well, we'll get into that in a second. First of all, I'm Terese Hougaard. I'm a partner at the venture capital fund Atomico, where I focus on investing in sustainability and climate startups. So it's great to see you all here today. But I have the great pleasure of having with me on stage not just one, but two of Atomico's portfolio companies. So first of all, Sandhu, the CEO and co-founder of Vaayu, which is a carbon platform to help retailers track their footprint. And secondly, Michael Rudin, who's the sustainability product lead at Klarna, the global payments company. Now, very excitedly, about 2 days ago, actually, fresh in, there was an announcement that Vaayu is working with Klarna to help Klarna figure out how their shoppers can find out their carbon footprint on 50 million fashion products. And you heard right, not 15, 50, 50. And that actually will help 150 million of Klarna shoppers figure out what is actually their environmental impact when they buy products. And to put that a little bit into perspective, what that also means is that this is the largest consumer-focused climate initiative out there. And I know, Nam and Michael, must have taken a whole lot of hard work, so huge congratulations, and congrats on the announcement as well. So to get us kicked off, Michael, I'd love to hear, what were the challenges that Klarna was facing that brought you to this point of having the partnership?
Yeah, thank you so much, and so excited to be here, so hello as well from my end. So maybe to give a little bit of context about Klarna. Klarna is still getting kind of known here in Switzerland or building up our brand. So actually in Sweden, we're not the B2B payment method provider anymore. So Klarna has been growing quite fast, also now being present in the US. And the division of Klarna is now becoming this ecosystem and basically growing this massive shopping app across the world. And we've basically realized 2 years ago that we kind of have a considerable amount of impact when it comes also to empowering our consumers to make more sustainable choices. And back in April 2021, we launched the first CO2 tracker, the first version of the CO2 tracker. We got kind of exciting feedback that we actually want to invest more, and also got feedback that actually for consumers it feels more relevant if the accuracy scoring of the carbon emissions are basically going down or going to a level where we can make the carbon emission scoring on a product level. And therefore, we reached out basically to the very exciting solution that Nam and her team is providing. So after a POC, we basically, as we heard yesterday, launched the partnership together with you, which is so far going super strongly, and we're super excited about it. I think when it comes to kind of the largest challenges, I think it's making kind of this variety of brands that we are integrated, the variety of products, variety of verticals that we support, to basically come to a point where the estimations are accurate, the estimations are actually scientific. And yeah, with the over 600,000 data points that Vaayu provides, it's basically a super nice solution that we found, and we're super excited about the partnership.
Fantastic. And now I'm going to ask you, so I think most of us have seen there are a lot of carbon, if we call them accounting platforms out there. I think the latest that I saw was a list of more than 100 of them. So why does the world need another platform to measure the carbon footprint?
And thanks for having me here, and really nice to be here with you, Terese and Michael, and to talk about the partnership. So for us, I think my personal background is in retail. I worked at Zalando previously, and I think we saw that there were a lot of solutions being built for different industries, but nothing specifically focused on retail. And retail is very specific in the way that you produce goods, you move them around, you get them to the customer, so it has a very specific way that needs to be calculated. So our real focus coming in was, one, to help retailers understand their carbon impact. So where is optimization possible if you're a retailer, and how do you then give that data to your customers to then empower them to make decisions. So it's really about the retail-specific journey and finding potential to optimize and reduce carbon. So for us, that was kind of why we came in, and the partnership with Klarna is very specifically doing that. It's showing customers the impact of some of the decisions that they make, and they can then understand how do we change that, what can we do differently. So it's very much focused around also enabling better choices, as Michael said, on the customer-facing side.
Yeah, and speaking of that customer-facing side, so there are also obviously a lot of focus on helping companies figure out their carbon footprint for themselves across. Also, you focus obviously on retail too, Nem. But I suppose for both of you, maybe start with Michael. Do consumers actually care? I think we saw a show of hands. There are some people who do, some people who don't. But what have you seen?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and this is basically our ultimate goal, to help them make informed purchase decisions. And what we've seen is that, for example, like 58% of consumers, based on our own service that we do kind of a regular basis, are actually seeking out information on the sustainability aspect of products and brands. So I guess it's roughly the same as we've seen kind of the hand up. We've also have, like within the tracker, an NPS score where we have like 70% of acceptance rates. So yeah, we're super happy about it, and I think it's more and more coming, that people seek out this information, and hopefully within 5 or 10 years, we can say that, like, next to prices or availability, kind of having the sustainability aspects of brands or products while making a purchase decisions is actually equally important for consumers.
Yeah, so almost, I think as we all know, retailers do account for a large percentage of emissions, so it's almost like there's some sort of consumer pressure as well that's causing them to want to measure this. Yeah. Are you, and I know it's still very early days, the announcement was very recently, but do you think that you will see consumer behavior change as a result of your tracker?
I hope so. I strongly believe, and I strongly hope so. I guess, I'm not sure if you've seen this. I'm also always referred to that report that came out, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, from Zalando, which I'm not sure if you have been involved as well, but the attitude behavior gap, where we've seen that one of the main reasons that actually consumers who want to shop more sustainably, they're not doing that because they're missing exactly that transparency around the point of sale, so when they make a purchase. And I think that's kind of a first step toward that vision, and I think that will change the behavior into making more sustainable choices. Yeah.
Yeah. And 50 million fashion products, this is a really high number. I think a lot of people now will probably be wondering what's actually behind the hood here in Vaayu. Can you actually measure, how do you measure such a large footprint? And also, how accurate is it actually?
So I think when we kind of started, one of the biggest challenges we were facing is LCA, or life cycle assessments, have not been done at scale to help people understand the impact of products. It's been kind of really specific to one product, really time consuming and quite tedious if you're a retailer actually, or if you're someone like Klarna, actually impossible to do that at scale. So the big problem we were trying to solve is how do you understand the impact of things at scale? And we realized the only way to do that was to build a database ourselves from scratch, and to build that database essentially putting in life cycle data, modeling all of the product categories, and doing that with kind of LCA or climate scientists specifically was the only way to be able to do that. So what we ended up doing, as you can see on the slides, is building what is a very large carbon modeling engine, and the engine is what powers all of the carbon footprints and what gives the specificity. Because we modeled the engine ourselves, it's proprietary, we can basically, love the drilling, we can basically start from raw materials to manufacturing and through all of the processes that a product goes through, and we're very interested in helping understand where those specific impacts are. So if you're a retailer, that's super useful because you can then improve or understand the hotspots. If you're a company like Klarna, you can start to give that visibility to your customers so they even understand sometimes the material choices are what's impacting massively the carbon, and you can start to make those links as well as a consumer and start to understand. So for us, calculating that at scale was a huge piece of work, and very much around how we kind of model that and marry life cycle assessments, data science, and engineering in a way that it hadn't been done before. So that was kind of the big focus and what we needed to do to bring it to scale.
Yeah. And that obviously also, as you're describing, this is complex. There's a lot of data, there's a lot of thinking that goes into it. I know you also, as a company, you also look at logistics, you look at packaging as well, and measuring the carbon footprint there. But this piece is specifically around product, also what you walk through. How is it different from other types of categories of measuring carbon footprinting on?
So I think each category in carbon looks quite different, and within each product category also there's differences on how you think about that and what the carbon impact is. So when you think about logistics, what you need to do is quite different from what you need to do on the product, because on the product it's very much about the material choices, where the materials come from, what manufacturing processes were used, whereas on the logistics side it's very much about how do you move things around, what fleets were used. So it's basically understanding what levers are there for each of those pieces and how you can kind of calculate those. And the product one is really specific because it also involves every single category looks different, right? A dress is made in a different way from a t-shirt, from a pair of jeans. So it's then modeling all of those differences in basically an engine.
Makes sense. And Michael, you've just completed, or you've started this great collaboration with Vaayu. What does the next 5 years look like versus what your ambitions are right now? What do you think the future will be?
Yeah, I hope that we have a very strong partnership also in 5 years, of course. I think currently we cover the product verticals of fashion. I mean, there are so many other verticals out there that we still need to be covered, and I think Vaayu is the perfect partner to do so. But when it comes to next to Klarna, I think there are so many other shopping platforms or marketplaces out there, and hopefully we can inspire them as kind of the first pioneer in showing such a solution to do the same. I think we still have to do a lot more in that terms of sense, that bringing that transparency, as I said, to the point of sale. So I hope we can actually bring the snowball getting rolling for the whole industry when it comes to shopping, that we, as I've said before, hopefully in 5 years have 80 or 90% of consumers can actually use the sustainability data whenever they make a product choice. Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. And Nam, thoughts from you in terms of the future?
So I think, as Michael said, I think rolling out across categories and giving this access outside of fashion into other categories is a big piece we're looking at. And then also understanding and getting feedback from the market. So what customers respond to, where they're more interested, where we can then add more data to help them make better choices, and what more information they want. So a huge part of it is collaboratively kind of developing what does that future look like and what do we get as feedback from the customers. So that's kind of a huge part of what we're thinking about, and obviously hope we can grow it to an entire category and all portfolios, products. So that's kind of what we hope is the future.
Well, I, for one, am really excited to see how that develops on all fronts. And thank you so much both for coming up here and sharing news about this collaboration, which is really exciting. And then for all of you, next time you use Klarna, you can check out the carbon tracker and get a bit of a sense of whether you should buy one thing or the other based on what the carbon footprint of the product is. Thank you so much.